Previously on Truck Central.
Here we go. 100,000 miles. This is the 100K milestone, so I guess this kind of qualifies it as truly, officially high mileage. I'm going to break this review up into 3 separate categories. I'm going to talk about what's not broken, because sometimes these early production run vehicles, what's not breaking is just as important as what is breaking. Then we're going to transition into what is wearing, because it's not always what's broke and what's not broke. Sometimes there's some middle ground of degradation, and there's a few things to cover there. And then finally we'll go over what has broke. I think there's really 4 main things that have broken on this truck so far, and 2 of them I've already covered in detail, so I'll kind of gloss over those, and then I'll mention the 2 things that you have not heard of. So now let's talk about what is worn. So not a lot is really worn. Everything is holding up really well, or it's breaking. And there's not that many things that have broke, but you know, just so you know, it's not like this thing is just falling apart on me. It's really not. Unfortunately, one of the other big selling points for me for this truck was the ram boxes. I absolutely love the ram boxes, and I still do. But if you saw the very first ram boxes come out, someone will have to help me out with what year the ram boxes debuted. But when they came out, I was skeptical, and for good reason. Everybody has seen how they warp and they get that deflection, and it just doesn't look good. And that kind of turned me off on the ram boxes for the first few years. And when these came out, I told myself, Ram figured it out. There's no way that their ram boxes are going to deflect still on the new generation after all this time. And I think that they've fixed it. I think that they've made it better. Let me clarify that for the most part. But there is still a little deflection, and I don't love it. So I'm gonna show you a short video of what my ram boxes look like now. And then I will segue into a short video of what a brand new ram box looks like on the lot right now, because I just left the dealer 2 days ago and I ran out there and I wanted to see the difference. My stuff doesn't get wet, and my stuff is protected, and they still lock and all that good stuff. They just don't look as clean as they did before. Not the end of the world, but it's starting to wear, and hopefully it doesn't get worse. The other thing, very common, is the stuck tailgate. Now I say worn because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if it's temperature based, if I'm sitting, I definitely know that if the truck is racked leaning more one way than the other, that definitely causes it to stick. But sometimes it sticks even when I'm on flat ground. I was gonna have the dealership look at it the last time I was there, because someone said that it's got like a weak latch and it could be covered under warranty. Well, when I went into the dealer, I couldn't get it to stick. With the fob, with the button, out back, it would just work perfectly when I was at the dealer. So I said, screw it, it's fine, don't worry about it. So what I mentioned earlier, one of the interior things that doesn't work, what I meant is the tailgate deployment button. Sometimes it works, sometimes I'm gonna press it right now with my rear camera on, and we will see together if it drops it. It did. Okay, it dropped it, so that's good. Cool. It works today. Doesn't always, and I think maybe it's dirty. Sometimes it's cold and it constricts or contracts. I don't know. So not perfect, but all in all, it's okay. The other hardware thing that's kind of worn, the fob. A lot of people don't get hung up on the fob, and I understand why. It's not a big deal. But have you seen a crappy fob? Because I have. Have you seen the ones where like the buttons start to tear and peel and you can't see the icon anymore? That's not uncommon. I think some older Chevys had that, like the Tahoes maybe, the like the late 2000 model Tahoes, these buttons would peel. It looked terrible. And I've got a good friend who has an Acura TXL, and the whole thing is like chipping and flaking. It's not even an old car, and he's definitely just puts it in his pocket, doesn't do anything else with it, and it looks terrible. So I mean, imagine going to the valet, handing him your keys, and it looks like your dog chewed on it. I don't know, it's just not a good look. This one's holding up pretty well. The buttons that I press are getting a little brown. There's some scratches here and there, but keep in mind, I keep this in my pocket all day, every day, with a pocket knife, pins, nuts, bolts, screws, you name it. I've got junk in my pocket, so it's holding up okay. I've never had an issue with the ram fobs, so those are good. Other wear items, you're gonna laugh at this. The windshield wipers are falling apart on me. They're the original windshield wipers. I just need to replace them. I know it's a consumable, to be expected, but those are wearing out. Another one of the items that is starting to wear, and it's to be expected, is the brake pads. They are starting to get a little noisy in the morning when it's cold, and when it warms up they quiet down, but you know, they've got 100,000 miles on them and they only last so long. So we got a brake job coming up. I've kind of held off because I want to consider maybe upgrading to a better rotor and pad combination for heavy towing. So I don't know if that's like a cross drilled and slotted rotor, or maybe just a different composite pad material. Not really sure, but I didn't want to replace the brakes now, knowing that I think the brakeability from a towing perspective could be a little bit better. So if you have any feedback on that, I would love to hear it. All right, what else? I guess we're gonna move on to the what's broke category. It's not a long list, but it is still important. I'm sure this is kind of what most people want to know. And the very first thing that happened, it was about a 40,000 mile mark. It was the steering nut. I talked about that on the 50K review video. I took it in because at low speeds, whenever you would turn left and right, you hear this kind of click, click, pop, pop. Took a couple times for the dealer to really be able to pinpoint what it was, but when they did, they fixed it, and it's been perfect ever since. And that's been, what, 60,000 miles I've put on since that repair's been done, and it's been holding up good. And of course, I can't forget the most recent 2 videos that we posted about, and that's been the exhaust manifolds. There was so much feedback on that it really kind of opened my eyes to how common of a problem this was, and a lot of people are worried about it. And man, I don't know, it isn't something I think you should have to deal with when you buy a new truck. At the same time, I don't think it's the end of the world. If it is something that bothers you, there were some suggestions made by some viewers that may help. Some people mentioned that if you install what they call shutters in the grill and change out the thermostat, that can help. Limiting idle hours and making sure you only put in high octane fuel, that's supposed to help. Now, I idle a lot, and I put in whatever fuel I need to, depending on where I'm at, usually 87 octane. And so I probably didn't give myself the best chance for success in that regard, but I don't choose my fuel because I'm scared of breaking my manifolds. I shouldn't have to, and they shouldn't break either, but they did. And that's just, you reap what you sow sometimes, I guess. Something that I haven't mentioned yet on any of the videos that I've dealt with recently is the spare tire cable winch. It's that winching mechanism that pulls the spare tire up tight underneath the bed, and you kind of go through that hole in the bumper and you use your jack tool and you lower it down. Anyway, I got pulled over because I was speeding, and when I pulled off the shoulder, I ran over something. It shredded my tire. Anyway, I had to get a new tire, and so I put the spare on, drove to the tire shop, and when I went to put the spare back, I couldn't get that little doohickey hoot to come back down so that I could put it through the spare and pull it back up. Not a big deal, I just couldn't put the spare back on. But what I ended up having to do was get up there with the wrench. There's 2 bolts that hold it on. I was able to take it off, and I put it in a vise, and I put the other side on a come along, and I just pulled that sucker apart, and it was just seized up in there, or in a bind. Not a huge deal. Like I said, I fixed it relatively easy, had it back on in 30 minutes. But if it were to seize up with the tire on, then not only would the tire not come down, but you wouldn't have a way to access the winch to remove it to fix it. It would be kind of trapped in there. And so I don't know what the deal was. I think maybe it's because there wasn't weight on the winch as it went up. There was slack in the line. Not sure. Either way, that could have been a problem, and it could be a problem for you if it seizes up and you need that spare tire and it's installed. So that's not good. Another thing that broke, so I broke the tire. I got a flat. Then the winch broke, and this is the little plastic cover that covers that hole in your bumper, and you kind of pull this off and you put that square tube in there and you rotate it up and down. Tab broke, so now I just got a big hole in my bumper. So I broke 3 things in one fell swoop on that whole deal. Anyway, not a big deal, like I said, but it's kind of sucks. And then lastly, the newest thing on the list of what's broken. This just happened yesterday. Go out to the truck, get ready to go to work, and I start it, and it's dumping fuel on the ground. Literally dumping fuel on the ground. Safety hazard, concern. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I end up finding out that it only happens when the truck is running. I'm able to limp it to the dealership, no appointment, and they were able to diagnosed it as a bad fuel pump, replaced it, and I was back on the road 2-3 hours later. So the dealership did a fantastic job getting that fixed. It was covered under warranty, and it ended up being a minor thing. Could have been a major thing. It could have been a fire. So I don't take that lightly. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't a big long-term deal, but it was a serious breakdown. I will have a whole video that goes into all the details about the fuel pump crisis that we had and what it takes to get fixed and how much it cost and all that. That'll be in a separate video. Like I said, this is getting long already. I think that's it. I think that's everything. I talked about what's broke. I talked about what's not broke. I talked about what's worn out. If I missed anything, just let me know. And, I'm happy to talk to you guys in the comments. So feel free to share your mind, ask questions. And as always, thanks for watching. As I'm sure you've seen, Real Truck is the new sponsor for this season. They're going to be sending us some goodies to put a little pep in the old dusty Dodge's step. But they don't just have Ram parts. They've got Chevy, Ford, Nissan, Toyota, you name it. Everything from wheels, tires, intakes, tunes. They've even got the gooseneck hitch that I've got in the back. We'll leave a link to that in the description if you want to turn your half-ton into a hot shot hauler or not, whatever you prefer. So head on over to realtruck.com, check it out for yourself, but keep me in mind if you see something over there that you think would go well with the old high mileage Ram. As always, thanks for watching.